Good, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Gate of Trust. And we're in the middle of chapter 3. Oh, no, 1 second. 1 second. Okay, electronic problems have hopefully been solved. We are in the middle of chapter 3. And in chapter 3, we said we're going to mention 5 factors that obligate trust in God. And the first of those 5 factors is to believe in the 7 qualifications of trust that we spoke about in chapter 2. And we're quickly running through those 7 factors again over here. And we said the first is that God is compassionate. God is kind and caring, which we said is fascinating because obviously he created all kindness. So all kindness is due to God, and obviously it's much greater than God. And it actually, as we learn according to Chassidus, stems from God. So that's the first aspect, God's absolute kindness. Go back to yesterday's for more about that. The second factor we said is that God knows what's best for us. The designer knows what's best for us better than we know. And the third factor is that God is stronger than any other force, and no other force has any power over God. And these are things we spoke about yesterday at great length. And therefore, we're not going to speak about them again today at great length, because if you want to do that, you can go back to the tape. And yes, I know that you're waiting for the tapes. The fourth quality, ladies and gentlemen, on page 62, the fourth quality. And if you look at the bottom of the page where it has a commentary, it says the fourth quality. This is the second quality mentioned in the previous chapter. So what's interesting is he's reordering the qualities over here. And as we spoke about, there are a lot of scholarly essays that can be written on this book. And we are waiting for one of you to write a scholarly essay on why the presentation on chapter 2 was the way it was, and in chapter 3 is the way that it is. And we're waiting for that paper, which we are sure will be forthcoming in a future edition of scholarly papers. That being said, we continue. The fourth quality, page 62. Excuse me. God supervises the governance of all people. He does not forsake them. Rather, he helps them with all their needs. As we said in chapter 2, he is attentive. Not only does he love, but he is attentive. He does not ignore them when they're in a time of hardship, nor are any of their matters concealed from him, whether it be small or big, nor does his being involved in one matter cause him to forget about another matter. Very simply, God knows what's going on. God is aware. God is attentive to everything that's going on. In other words, not only is God all-powerful, omniscient, as we read about in the previous quality, the third quality is that God is omniscient. He is all-powerful. The fourth quality is God is knowledgeable. God is aware of everything that's happening in the world and is attentive to everything happening in the world. Please read under the line, page 62, the commentary. Nor are any of their matters concealed from him. Jewish philosophy presents many understandings of divine providence. This concept is is part of divine providence. Divine providence means God runs every aspect of the world. In Hebrew, the word is hashgacha pratis. Hashgacha pratis. If we take anything out of this course, perhaps the most important principle we can take from our course of studies is that everything that happens in the world is by hashgacha pratis. Please, ladies and gentlemen, memorize those 2 words in Hebrew. Hashgacha pratis. I'm going to spell it for you so that you can write it down and memorize these 2 words in Hebrew, because they are crucial words in our study of Judaism, of Gate of Trust, and of Chassidus are the words hashgacha pratis. I'm going to spell it out for you in English because it's an English-speaking crowd. H-A-S-H-G-O-C-H-A, hashgacha pratis. Second word, P-R-O-T-I-S. Okay, hashgacha pratis means divine providence. Now, back to the comment, page 62 at the bottom of the page. Nor are any of their matters concealed from him. Jewish philosophy presents many understandings of divine providence. Some sages maintain that God has a general providence, not individual divine providence. Some scholars historically felt or thought that there is general providence, hashgacha klalis, over creation, while others explain that God has a specific providence over each individual. According to the Baal Shem Tov and the teachings of Hasidus, divine providence is on everything, not only on man, but to every single creation, even inanimate objects, plants and animals. And in a general sense, it's towards the species survival, but to each individual object. And 3, about the general life of an object, rather each detail of any person or object. So basically every single detail. I'm skipping to the beginning of the next paragraph. In the note, the Baal Shem Tov further explains that this providence is the life energy of the created being and maintains its existence. As we learned about in our Tanya classes, that God constantly creates every aspect of creation at every particular moment. Since God is recreating everything anew at every moment, then God is intimately aware, in fact. He creates everything that is happening to a person. Finally, the commentary over here has a very important quote from Hayom Yom, a daily digest of thoughts written by the Rebbe. A person should ponder, if the movement of a blade of grass is prompted by divine providence, every blade of grass moves because God wants that blade to move. Okay? And therefore, every blade of grass that moves fulfills the intent of creation. How much more so concerning the human species in general, and the Jewish people, the nation close to him in particular, that everything is divine providence. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, what we take from here is nothing happens by chance. There are no unimportant details in life. There are no coincidences. Nothing just happens. Everything is divinely orchestrated. God is not only aware of every detail, but every single detail of life is divinely orchestrated by, going back to the principles we spoke about yesterday, the kindest, all-powerful God who knows what's best for us, better than we do. And I'd like to add something over here, which is seeing hashgacha pratis, seeing divine providence is the most inspiring, uplifting, life-enhancing, joy-generating skill that we can develop in our lives. And I say skill because it takes practice. Training ourselves to see the thread, to open up our eyes and await the opportunities, is one of the most incredible skills we can develop in our lives. You will either meet someone or hear from someone or read something this morning about 27 things will happen to you today before noon. Every single one of them has a divine purpose.
Wow. Wow.
Try to figure out that purpose. Try to see the opportunity. Now, if you start looking out for it, you will start seeing it. If you don't look out for it, you'll miss it. If you don't look out for it, you'll miss it. You might miss it. Sometimes it's so glaring you can't miss it. Now, that might be an opportunity for you. That might be an opportunity for the person or that you're going to interact with. Or it might be an opportunity for you to do something good. Or other opportunities. There are other opportunities. But nothing just happens. So all those, what did we say, 27 things that are going to happen before noon today are important. They're all important. God Almighty, the omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing God, whose love is infinite, who knows what's best for us, has arranged these exactly 27. I don't know the number. We'll obviously figure that out. Let us know things that are going to happen to us today. It's probably a lot more than 27. Opportunities. Now, I want to say something very important, which is like this. The biggest challenge with trust in God, and this is a book about trust in God, The Gate of Trust. The biggest challenge with trust in God is when things become risky or difficult. When things are good, it's easy to trust in God. Although the old joke is when things are good, we start thinking that we did it. Right? We blame God for the bad and we credit ourselves for the good. But the challenge with trust is when things are risky, when there's a risk, or when things are difficult. That's when it really gets hard. By training ourselves to thread the details, to see all the incredible divine providence that's everywhere in our lives, this gives us the capacity to see it in the difficult times too. Now, the book of the Torah, which probably most emphasizes this idea, is the book of Esther. The book of Esther is a series of incredible coincidences. Esther just happens to be taken as the queen. Vashti happens to not want to come to the king, so that Esther happens to become the queen at a time when Haman happens to become the villain, right? So that she's just there, and Mordechai happens to be in the right place to hear just the right thing with Bigson and Seresh to give him just the right amount of credibility, and Haman just has to show up at the time when the king just can't sleep. And suddenly everybody happens to boom, 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 all the coincidences line up, and everybody lives happily ever after.
And God doesn't appear in the book of Esther.
And the name of God, as Jerry said, isn't even written there. To teach us that if you want to find God, you need to learn how to thread all the details of what's happening in your life. The greatest miracles happen over many, many years, because the story of Purim happens over a period of many, many years. From the time Esther becomes the queen till the time that she saves the Jews it takes many years. Some of that time you could be suffering with a terrible husband, like Esther had to, in a place you don't want to be. But eventually, if you look long enough and clearly enough, you realize while God's name is not obviously apparent, he's there in the deepest way the whole time. And the way to develop the skill is being attentive. We say God is attentive. God is attentive to us. At every moment, we need to be more attentive to God, which means to try to wonder why is this happening now? And the answer is not to find out the big picture, but what is the opportunity today? And am I maximizing every encounter? There are no coincidences. And you know what you start to see when you think this way? You start to see amazing miracles. Amazing opportunities come your way. Amazing opportunities. And when you start to see the hand of God in everything, your trust in God is also increased. So it's a skill, it's an art, it takes work. And all this is included in this fourth quality that we're reading about over here, that God supervises the governance of all people. And we have two quotes now at the bottom of page 62 that emphasizes, as it says in Isaiah, why should you say, O Jacob, and speak, O Israel? My way has been hidden from the Lord, and from my God, my judgment passes. You think that you're operating in the dark and God doesn't even know what's happened to you, which is the most ridiculous thing you could possibly think, that God doesn't know what's happening to you, considering that he's running the world at every single moment. And in the following verse, God responds, do you know, if you have not heard, an everlasting God is the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth. He neither tires nor wearies. There is no fathoming his understanding. Now, it's interesting that the commentator over here did include the concept of hashgacha pratis, that God is running everything. Over here, the main point over here being made is that God is all-knowing. Not so much that God is doing everything, but that God is all-knowing. And there are those who think that God doesn't know what's happening on planet Earth, which is the most ridiculous and silly concept that one can ever possibly have. By the way, with the previous principle, the third quality is the quality that God is all-powerful. And that's where we ended off yesterday. Okay, now I'm going to go on a little rant, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me, but a little rant. You'll forgive me on a Monday morning, a rant.
Is that the South African currency?
Let's just say both are probably worth as much. Many years ago, a book was written called Why Do Bad Things Happen to Good People? And the author suggests that bad things happen to good people because God has no control of the world. God can't do anything about it. People do these things, and there's nothing God can do about it. It's a nice, easy, interesting concept, except it's not Jewish. So anyway, this person tries to answer a Jewish question by saying with an answer that doesn't fit in with Judaism, because Judaism teaches God can do whatever he wants. And no force is more powerful than God. It's not such a big rant. You guys have heard bigger rants from me. But it's a very categorical and clear statement that that's a bunch of nonsense. Rabbi Darren once put it nicely. He said, he'd rather believe in an omnipotent God who he can't understand than an impotent God that you can get your feeble human mind around. Okay. The fifth quality, page 63. No creation has the power to help himself or harm himself, or to help or harm another person without the permission of the Creator. May he be blessed. For when a servant has more than one master, and each one is able to help him, it makes no sense for the servant to rely solely on one of his masters, because he expects to be helped by each of them. If in fact one of them, as a result of his greatness, is more capable than the others to help him, then the servant's reliance on that master will be stronger in accordance with his ability to help him, despite the fact that he relies on the other masters as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to come back to this tomorrow. So the homework for this morning, or for today, is to identify 27 aspects of divine providence, Hashgacha Pratis, 27 aspects of Hashgacha Pratis that happen between now and noon, or at least until tomorrow morning, and to try to understand what opportunity is God putting in front of me here. And if you can only see 3 between today and tomorrow morning, it's a good start. If you can identify 3 out of the 27 between now and tomorrow morning, that's a great start.
Can we use this class as one?
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely. The fact that we're learning this morning is an absolute divine providence. The message for today is Hashgacha Pratis.
Yep.
God arranged the universe that we should all be thinking about Hashgacha Pratis today. And for those of you who were wondering, just in case sometimes I have to say the obvious, the number 27 was a very poor attempt at a joke. Thank you very much, everybody.
I thought there was Rashi Tevos for something.
Yeah, no, it was a very poor attempt.
A gematria.
In other words, it's not 27, it could be 42, it could be 69, it could be 128, and I'll let you fill in some more numbers of what it could be. The point is, every single moment, every single thing is by divine providence.
But each of us can have different numbers.
As every moment of life is by Hashgacha Pratis. It's an infinite amount of divine providence happening at an infinite amount of time. 27 was just to seem like a large number, even though it's really a very small number, because the amount of Hashgacha Pratis, of things that God is arranging for us to happen today, are far more numerous. It runs into the thousands, if not the millions or the billions. But I'll let the mathematicians figure out how many moments there are between now and tomorrow morning, and that's how many Hashgacha Pratis things are happening. And it's so complex, even the greatest supercomputer can't do these kinds of calculations that Hashem is making at every moment to make sure that everything that happens for every single one of us is happening by incredible divine providence. But the trick is, the skill, the art is about opening up our eyes and seeing the opportunity. Imagine opportunities are flying our way every second. The question is, God is throwing so many amazing opportunities at us every single moment. How many of them are we seizing? Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you tomorrow as we continue our studies.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
And to all of you.
So,